all the introductions. This is going to be very relaxed. If there are questions, I know there's PowerPoint presentation, it's merely just to put some points on. You'll get a copy of all this afterwards. There's some, some tips for writing cover letters, etc., etc. So, if there are any questions whilst Josie and myself are discussing things about cover letters, then please feel free to chip in if you don't agree. So it's going to be very, very relaxed. Okay, so the purpose of cover letters. So I know that you've had a workshop on CV writing.
Not CV, teaching statement and research statement. We haven't had anything on CV yet.
Forgive me for that. Big difference between a cover letter and a CV. The main difference is a cover letter should not be a regurgitation of your CV. It should point out key facts and important things. So it's really an introduction to the rest of the job application. So why you're applying for a job, what you bring to the job, and it's an opportunity, as I put it there, to create a narrative. Okay, so it shouldn't necessarily be bullet points, but you're telling a story whilst you're writing the letter, and I'll explain about the length, etc., etc. And it's also a way of quickly summarising the key points about yourselves, why you're important, why you should get the job above everybody else, etc. And also a first impression, and first impressions most definitely count. So whilst it's on paper, it's still very important that you get it right and you take it seriously.
I think that's actually very important. This is a first impression. But the center of your application is your CV. That's the most important thing. And so I think, as I thought about this, the most important thing is that your cover letter does no harm. Spell things correctly, address it to the right person, spell their name correctly, stuff like that. And when I talked to Dr. O'Callaghan about this, he's been on the other end of the cover letter experience. And his point is that what a cover letter can do is it can bring out things that your CV doesn't say, like work that you haven't published, biographical information about yourself, things like that, so that the reader has some context when they go in and look at your CV, which is where the meat of the application is.
Okay, so style of cover letters, and again this will depend upon the level at which the job that you're applying for, the type of job, etc. I know this is for faculty positions. Again, it will vary slightly between whether it's a faculty position within the US or whether it's abroad somewhere, etc. And certainly we can talk about that afterwards. But in general, we're basing this mainly on US applications. So a general thing that the style should be about 1 to 1.5 pages. And again, it does depend on where you're applying, etc. And it should be 3 to 5 paragraphs. So really what that means is that if you don't have 5 paragraphs, don't stress about it, but just put the key points in there. And you'll see from some of the examples that we've handed out that there's a variation between the 3 and 5 paragraphs. And some are good examples and some are perhaps not so good.
Just a quick question. When you say 1 to 1.5 pages, is that total length that includes your header address and your closing, or is that 1 to 1.5 pages at a time?
Pretty much most of it, but I mean, it's important that you get the information in there. So if it's slightly longer than 1.5, don't worry about it. The key thing is that, bearing in mind, just like your CV, everything that you put on there has to be, there's a reason why you're doing it. Because if you're sending it and they have maybe 100 applications, that's a lot to read through. And having been in a position where I've interviewed candidates, etc., and have to go through all those, you want to have things stand out and say, okay, this person, this is why I want to interview them, I want to get to know them better, because I think they're suitable. And usually you might be going down from 100 applications down to 5. So there has to be key points in there as to why, and those have got to shout out. As Josie said, address your letter preferably to a named person. So again, it's showing that you have perhaps inquired a little bit further. So on a job application, it might say, if you want more information, please contact Dr. Smith or Dr. Jones or whoever. The advice is definitely contact them, because it's the first port of call. This information is filtered down. It might not be Dr. Smith who's actually advertising the job or who's will make the ultimate decision, but it will all add in your favour if if you've done that. So if there is a named person, definitely.
Let me comment about that. I think one of the more important things that you can do is, even before you go to the point of writing a letter, is to think about who you know at this institution, who knows somebody at the institution that you know, right? Because really, networking is one of your crucial things. At a meeting, be friendly to people, talk to people, get to know people. Because it turns, for example, it turns out that Dr. Callahan, the guy who hired me, was best friends with the guy that was my department chair as a graduate student. And so I had him in because I knew someone who he knew and had a good relationship with. But if I had been a jerk to Dr. Courtney and had been a troubled student, then I wouldn't have got the job, right? So it's very important that the personal aspects of job hunting, that you remember that. It's not all about the font size and how long your letter is. It's about creating a confidence in the other person, and that's best done when you know somebody that they know, so then they can trust you.
Absolutely, and it's a small world, so you'd be surprised who knows who. Definitely. Key thing I think this is important is the grammar and spelling. Make sure they are correct. It is very important, and there's nothing worse than seeing a letter or a CV that has spelling mistakes. Particularly as you're applying for, it's your next level, you're applying, you want to say that I'm serious about this, I'm worth employing, and I want to take it further and work something, so it's important that you've got to get it right. Because if you can't get it right at this level, the question is, can you get it right at other levels? Because it's important. It's also showing maybe when you come to do grant writing and things like that. People want to see that you can at least do the grammar and the spelling, and it should be perfect. And again, I've put use a professional tone, and I've got an example of this in the next slide. And it really goes to the thing of you're going from postdoc now, and now you're going into a more serious level. There's more commitment, and it's different than being a postdoc. So the actual tone of the letter, and in some respects, the way in which the CV is laid out should be the same. It should be a more professional way of doing it. Any questions? Okay, so I put an example of a cover letter in the sense of how to sort of spread it out, and we can discuss this in a bit more detail. But and again, it depends. So you definitely want your name, your address, and your contact details, and that's usually in the right-hand side of the letter. So forgive me if you already know all this. This idea of the date, it can go on the right-hand side, but it can also go on the left-hand side. So in the UK, we tend to put it on the right. You want the name of the person and the organisation and their address on the left-hand side. So in other words, set the letter out correctly. It's attention to detail.
Use of titles.
Yes.
Because some people are really fussy about having all of their titles on every bit of communication.
Yeah.
If you want to scroll through, you can.
And whilst you might think that, I do actually know a professor who's got quite a long list of letters after their name, and they're very fastidious in the sense that if people don't use that, then they tend to dismiss it, and whilst it shouldn't be, some people are like that. Anyway, so dear whoever, so if it's, and we'll do the thing of if it's sir, how do you enter the letter, and if it's doctor, we'll go over those. So the opening paragraph, you want to keep it short and sweet and straight to the point. So every sentence you write in your cover letter should be specific. There should be a reason why it's in there. And also, again with the CV and also your research statements and things like that, please don't put anything on there that you don't want to discuss at an interview. So a number of times, particularly you'll find that you're interviewing a candidate for different levels, faculty position, whatever, and maybe they're a little nervous. It's understandable. So as an interviewer, you'll think, okay, well, I'll ask them something that's going to make them relax, so then we can get a little bit more into it. And so quite often we'll pick something that's on your cover letter or in your CV or on your research statement. If you put, for example, in your research statement, I isolated T cells and I injected them in the brain, this is why I saw them, etc., etc. And I say, okay, well, tell me about that technique. Why did you do that and what did you find? I'm assuming that if you've written it, that you're happy to talk about it. So it's one of those things, and you'll be surprised the number of people that put things in cover letters or research statements, etc., that actually blank or quite clearly they put it because they thought it was impressive, or they've read that actually this department works on T cells, so I'll pop in that, but I haven't really done that at all. So make sure you're happy about talking about things.
And that's a matter of honesty. If you want to be You want to promote yourself, but you don't want to be cocky and you don't want to be phony. And because people have great phony contenders, they can tell.
And they'll just push, and it's a waste of everybody's time. So, yeah, so while you're writing, introduce yourself. Be specific. It's not a, this is my life story. So just a simple introduction, a simple sentence. Give specifics about why you're interested in the particular employment, the position that's being offered. And it might be something advertised, it might be, as Jason said, that you'd like to work in a department and you've written to somebody that you have a connection with, that sort of thing. State that in the letter.
I think it's also important to remember that they aren't going to hire you because you want the job. They're going to hire you because they have a job that they need to be done. And they will probably tell you what that job is in the advertisement. So it's a good idea to refer to the ad or use the ad as a structure when you're talking about why you're applying for the job, right? As you mentioned your ad, I can do this and this and this and this, right? So then they can see that you are someone that they would want to fill the position that they have. It's also, I think, important to avoid applying for jobs that you're clearly not qualified for, or clearly are outside your realm of interest, because that's just a choice.
So I have a question. What if there's always not perfect match? I mean, if they try to hire somebody and you're kind of overlap but not perfect match, how can you, I mean, any suggestion on saying I'm kind of?
Well, I think you want to say what you are. If it's obviously a bad match, then you wouldn't do it. If it's a reasonable match, I mean, I think it's just a matter of making a judgment. I mean, when I sat in on hiring negotiations, oftentimes they're looking for a particular profile, and here's someone that's not exactly that profile, but it's a pretty good candidate. We may consider interviewing them. You know, so I maybe you have some insight.
Yeah, I would say that sometimes it's about exactly that. So the advert's there for a specific reason. What's written on it quite often is fairly specific. But never underestimate the fact that if you think your research or your teaching or whatever is advantageous to the departments that you wish to work in, then sell that. The other way of doing it is if there's a contact name on the advert, you can always write to them and say, look, I've seen this advert, I think I would be suitable for the job, but I don't have such and such experience, and then sort of discuss it with them and pick up the phone and talk to them and see what they say. Because quite often it is that the advert's written, but they're also, it's not necessarily a fishing expedition, but we're looking to see who's out there, who applies, and also it might be something, actually this person, okay, they're not exactly suited to the role, but they do this, and that, we don't have that, that's good. So it could be that sort of thing. So it's just, ask questions, talk to them. Okay, so the middle paragraph, and again this is sort of, middle is split maybe two paragraphs, summarises your backgrounds and qualifications and contributions you can make to the departments or to the group in which you want to work. Goes back again to what Jason was saying, that you can put things in here that aren't necessarily in your CV, or you can pick key things in your CV that actually shine out and fit with that advertisement or their department or whatever. But don't repeat the CV. I think that's the main sort of thing. It is actually important that the CV and the cover letter can stand alone, because quite often these things are detached, and sometimes people read one versus the other, and it's important that it's very clear who you are on both and why you want to apply for the job. So your CV states the general reasons, because you can read through the CV and say, okay, yeah, this person has these qualifications, I can see where that fits. You've highlighted things in your cover letter, and so from that point of view, you can stand alone. Again, be specific and be credible, and don't lie. Closing paragraph. Why the position is, or the university maybe, or the person that's head of the department, whatever, is attracted to you, and sort of pave the way for interview. So you want to finish on a good note. The covering letter should be very positive. It should be about selling yourself, but also saying, look, this is why you want to hire me, because I can do this. But as Jason said, don't forget that they need a job doing. So you want to say, this is why I can do the job. And then finish appropriately. Always sign the letter and always write who you are. So put your name underneath it, rather than just have a signature.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's better, email or print it out?
what's better, email or printed out?
Yes.
In response to
Advertisement. You send your cover letter. So
would you
the
email
electronic
the
application, but let's say,
yeah, so,
you have an option to send it to a person who's chairperson of the search committee. You can email it because you have an email as well. What's better?
I've got that next slide, but the basic thing is you email a PDF copy of your cover letter. You do not send in an email your cover letter. So
The DOC file? You mean the doc file?
yeah, so you always save it as a PDF.
Right.
And you send that in an email. But the email to Dr. Smith, who's might be on the cover letter, is, "Dear Dr. Smith, please find enclosed or attach my
I got it.
cover letter for such and such a job."
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a thing on that. Okay, this middle paragraph, this sort of hazy region, again, depends on the job that you're applying for, the faculty position you're applying for. Maybe less teaching is required, maybe they don't mention teaching, and maybe there's more research. So it depends. It depends on what job you're going for. But in the teaching paragraph, a few details, not a huge amount, but a few details about your teaching experience and your strengths, what you've taught, what you can teach when you're there. So again, do your research, have a look at what the department specialises in, have a look at the courses that they run. So if you're a candidate that can teach on multiple courses, that's very attractive because you're basically thinking, okay, I'm hiring this person because they fit the role, etc. But they can also teach on a few courses. That's much nicer than having just one person that can only teach on one aspect. So sell yourself. If you can teach, if you teach about, I don't know, in my case, the microcirculation or the heart or the brain, then it covers many different aspects. So you can teach on many different courses. So make sure you highlight that.
Can I interject? One of the complaints to Dr. Callahan, when I talked to him about this the other day, was that sometimes people don't put in their CVs the things that they are expert in, being able to teach in classes and things like that. He gave an example of a graduate student he once had who had been the top of his class in prenatal parasitology, in the parasitology course, and he put that in the CV. And it turned out that the department, not in the ad, the department was looking for somebody to teach parasitology, and that's what got him the job. So be specific about what your academic background is, what are you capable of teaching, what sort of experience have you had, even in courses and stuff, because that can be very helpful to you.
And again, make connections between your research and teaching so that they can see the cross disciplines, but also the fact that you're taking, the research is very important, but you also want to expand on that and give back as well, so that you can do both. Because as a part of the faculty, you will need to teach. The amount that you will teach will be dependent upon where you go and the level of the faculty position you're going for. So, research paragraph, again, a little bit similar to the teaching side of things. Concentrate on specifics. Do not waffle. Okay, there's plenty of time to talk about things in more detail in an interview, but this is about being specific, but also telling them information. Again, as we said before, do the research. Try to link in with other people within the department and within the university. So it's nice because, again, you're thinking about grant applications, you're thinking about, we want to hire somebody for our department, how can this person fit in? What do they have that fits in the whole picture? And that's for grant applications, it's for cohesiveness, so it's about what you bring and how you can integrate within the department. They want to be a cohesive, or most departments want to be cohesive. And again, language, make sure it's professional. So this idea of, for example, my dissertation explores the problem of leukocyte trafficking. Fine. It's better and perhaps more professional to say my work contributes to the field of leukocyte trafficking by demonstrating that. So the difference between it is saying, look, my work is very important, this is the reason why, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'll be doing in 5 years' time. So you're showing that extra level now, you're no longer the postdoc, you're going for a position where you are going to be the PI, that you're going to lead the group, and this is how you're going to lead them. So you need to have an idea of what you want to do. So be prepared, you're going to have to talk about it, and you need to get that through in the cover letter.
I have a question.
Research statement.
About linking your work to the work of other members of the department. Suggesting the potential collaboration may sound a little bit too persuasive. You know, those people have never seen you. and I already say, oh, my work will, may have potential opportunities for collaboration with so and so and so and so. Those two fellows never saw me. So I mean, isn't that too much?
No, I don't think it depends how you write it, but I don't think so.
That's what I'm asking. So should you say,
if you're trying to say, I want to get this job because I want to collaborate with Dr. X, that's a bad idea.
Yes.
If you're saying, my work has potential area of interesting overlap with Dr. X's work, and I think there's a real good possibility that we may find synergy or something like that, then that would be a better approach, right? So what you're showing is that you are interested in Dr. X's work, you find it interesting to you, and that your work may be able to help him in his work, right? Because they're hiring you to help everybody.
right,
And so if you can show that you are thinking about helping everybody, then that's good. If you're thinking, if you're trying to say, look, Dr. X is the reason I want to join this department, that's probably not.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a big difference between the two. Really. And again, it shows that you know that Dr. X works in that department and how things fit. So I think that's the best idea. But I wouldn't hide that fact. I think that it's good because it shows, again, you're highlighting to the potential employer the reason why you'd be good within the department, how you fit, how your work fits.
right.
But the idea of collaborating with, well, write to Dr. X and do that, that's nothing to do with the job. So emailing cover letters, and this goes on to what mine has. So again, attach a PDF document. Don't do Word because it can be, it's not as safe as doing a PDF. So it's good to attach it as a PDF. And again, don't write it in the email, but attach it as a PDF and simply put, as I've written there, this the position you're applying for. So it's if there's a reference of the position on your on the advert, then put that in. To be very specific about it. Say what you've attached, and also say to the recipient that if you can't open it for any problems, please don't hesitate to contact me. Or if you require further information, please don't hesitate to contact me. So just keep it brief, but make sure it's attached as PDF because people want to print it out as well, and it will be attached to other things. Do's and don'ts. It's probably I'm not put everything on there, but because it's talking do not send the same version of the cover letter. It is blatantly obvious when something comes in that the cover letter does not match the advert, or it's quite clearly, and in some cases it happened where they've written to the wrong person because it's from a different university, or they've put the wrong address on it, and it's quite clear that it's you. So make sure that you want them to take you seriously. It's a professional position you're going for. You want them to give you the respect of reading through everything. So give your potential employer the respect of actually writing something specific to them, showing that you actually want the job and the reason why you want it. Don't start a sentence with because or and. Yes, you'll read it that some people, that it is done like that, but it's not correct, so please don't. Again, as I said, tailor the letter, always important, even if it's very similar position, but tailor it. Be specific. Again, it's the idea of research. Make sure you've looked at the organisation, you've looked at the department, what the university does, what they specialise in, what they're good at, and put why you would be able to fulfil what they're requiring, what they want, why you ease the burden of that position, how you can do all the work for them. So make sure you highlight those things. And your unique selling points, that goes back to your question in the sense of if you don't necessarily fulfill everything on that advertisement, also highlight some points where you could add other things to the department, because that's important. Because you don't necessarily want a person that fits everything. You're looking for a rounded person as well.
I think it's important to remember that eventually the decisions can be made by a room full of people. And they're going to be talking with each other, and they're going to be making judgments and weighing different things. So they're going to weigh different candidates according to what they see they can add. So they've advertised for a certain bunch of things, right? But that may not be the only things that they might be able to accept. So just imagine the room of people. What would appeal to them? And that's what you should be for.
Because they'll be from different disciplines. might not all be from the same department. They might be from HR, so there'll be a wide range. Dear Sir, yours faithfully. Dear Dr. Smith, a named person, yours sincerely. Okay? In some letters you'll see, in the example of one of the ones you've got, which we'll cover, they just say sincerely. Strictly speaking, you should put yours. So. Okay,
I have a question about the previous one.
Yes.
Doctor or professor?
I would use, well, again, in the UK we use professor. We use the title that they're at. Here, doctor's fine. So a few sentences that you can use. Don't have to use them. Can use them. Quite nice. I should, not I would. Okay. I know this is sounding like a English lecture, but yes, I should, not I would. So my doctoral project is a study of whatever. Much of the research in this topic suggests that, blah, blah, blah. But I demonstrate what you've done, what discoveries you've made, that basically add to your department or whatever. So
you may want to also be careful that you, the people in the department are not the ones who created this literature. So, in spite of Dr. X's research, I found it to be completely wrong, even though he's on the search committee. Right? So do some of your research. Do some background, and then do some diplomacy.
Again, next one is really related to, although your primary area of research is X, you also can do Y, and you can teach on in both areas, in different courses, etc. So you're basically showing how you can develop, how you can interlink and weave into different disciplines with what you do. In the next few years, I hope to be able to investigate what, or it might be related to teaching or whatever. But again, all these sentences, etc., all they're doing is simply demonstrating that you're going beyond the immediate future. You're also thinking long term, because people don't hire for a short-term period, not for this type of position, not for a faculty position. They don't want somebody really that comes in and then leaves. We're looking for somebody that's actually going to stay a good 5+ years and is going to actually give something to the department and to themselves and their group. Again, I'm interested in this post for a variety of reasons. Then say something about the post and your character and why you fit and why you'd be good, why you're the key candidate they'd be looking for. Again, if you're training, if you're uniquely qualified for the job, say why you are. If you don't fit that job description exactly, you can still say I fit such and such. But I also have the following, which would integrate very nicely with whatever research is going on or teaching. And this is the last one is related to this idea of finishing the letter. Now it's again a very, when I say American thing, it's slightly different in Europe, but people do the network. It's like network all over the world, so that doesn't matter whether it's America, Europe, wherever. So it's important that sometimes, if there's a big meeting coming up and you're attending it, so for example, for us, experimental biology, there'll be quite a few people going. So it's quite nice to say, I'll be at that conference. If you or any of your colleagues are there, I'd be, very happy to meet and to discuss things further. Again, it depends on when the advert's due in and all that, when the deadline is. But it's nice to say that, so you're getting that the contact idea. But again, it depends on the type of advertisement or the job you're applying, I suppose. Do you have any?
No, except it would have been good. It's good if you've been to the conference the year before and already talked to somebody.
Yes,
you know about the X already.
Absolutely.
And talk. So I've done that, and that's been very helpful because then they can give a little bit more insight, maybe than what's in the advertisement. So then you can tailor your application for that.
Okay, examples. Right. So I have. Let me just read that actually. So this is one of the examples that I printed out for you, and it's really just. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it. It's just. Some of the things I wanted to highlight. This person actually got the job, and again, there's no actually correct way of writing.
By the way, this person actually got the job.
Got the job.
It's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
and he didn't get it. There's applied for Harvard. He didn't get it in Harvard. It's next year, but it's still a big research university.
Okay. So, there's some things I like, some things I don't. So,
that's fine. We're in college.
Again, well, we got the job, so it works. Again, obviously, address on this side, date can go on the left or the right, and then who it's addressed to. And then some of it, obviously, this has been changed, how it's changed names, etc., and the university. So, faculty search committee, if you can be more specific about the person that you're writing it to, and committee members is a bit wishy-washy. So, if you can find a name, it's always good.
One caution about the name is that often they give a name in an ad that turns out to be the secretary.
Yeah.
And that's good. Secretaries are worthwhile human beings, but they're not necessarily who you want to be addressing your cover letter to.
So do the research.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I'm not sure, I mean, would you put committee members? Or would you say
I would say the search committee or something more sort of committee members is kind of wishy-washy.
Right. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole letter. So it just says, I'm writing in response to a recent advertisement in Nature for a tenure track position at the Department of blah, blah, blah. Straight to the point. So I immediately know, get the letter, okay, yeah, you've seen it in Nature, this is what the job you're going for. Because, again, Jason was saying, it might be that that university might have put out 10 ads. So if you just say, I've seen your advert in Nature, which advert is that? Of 10 that I've just sent out.
It is nice to say where you saw the ad because
it helps.
Yeah, it does, because eventually they're going to be hiring somebody else. And where they get, so what is it, Nature or Science or Cellular? Where are people seeing the ads, and then they can allocate their advertising budget to charge?
So yeah, so be specific. So go straight into it, don't waffle. And again, this person's gone straight in the second paragraph. They've gone straight into my research is focused on whatever. There's a little bit of waffle, I think, in the middle bit. Next, I studied changes in chromatin status, blah, blah, blah. Which, again, without seeing the advertisement, it's very difficult to know how tailor-made that is for the job description. But that's a little bit waffly, but, it's dependent on the ad. This bit, next paragraph, in regards to funding, I'm a recipient of a K22 Career Transition Award from NIH, blah, 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 states the amount, will be activated upon restarting my own lab. So I'm looking to hire somebody, and I'm thinking, okay, they can get funding, that's a big tick, particularly in this day and age. That's a good amount, and it's going to be activated when I start his own lab, etc. So those are a good bonus points that automatically they come in with money. So don't stress if you don't have the money, but at least write key points, in other words, of what you bring to the table. I think it's important.
Well, in the real world, you have to compete when you compete for the position, and some people don't have funding, some people do. Isn't it the key point? One of the key points for the hiring committee that the person they hire actually has K22, which shows that this person can write a successful grant application. Or it's a plus, but it's not a decisive plus.
I don't think any one item is going to be decisive. The fact that you have money is a nice thing, but I think that it's nice mostly because it shows the potential you have for getting money. If you can show your potential for getting money, then that is also good. Even without having it. Even without having it. But of course you prefer to have it. So I mean, you want to bring about everything you can.
Right, but let's say what I'm trying to ask is, sometimes you're getting stuck in the situation that you cannot get money because you're a postdoc and there's a restricted number of postdoctoral awards, but you cannot get faculty, or you're not competitive enough. You don't have that advantage on your CV cover letter because you don't have money, so you're not.
I don't think any one item is going to qualify or disqualify you. If you have $1 bajillion in your K22 and your mentor wrote a letter that says you're a jerk, then you're not going to get the job probably, right? If you have a great history of postdoc funding, but you don't happen to have funding at this moment when you're applying for the job, That shows you have the potential to get funding, even though you don't have funding right now. Right. So the committee, the people sitting in the room are going to be weighing all these things. So you just want to bring to bear everything you have to offer.
I don't think, following on from that, I don't think you should be negative about yourself. So I think you should always be positive, and you're selling yourself. Okay, you're applying for a job and you want to fulfill what they require, but it's important that you don't present the negatives, that you present only the positives. So I don't think, as Jason was saying, I don't think it matters that you don't have money per se. And again, it depends on the level. If you're going for a professor level, then or full professor, then yeah, you should have some funding at some point to get to that level.
Maybe
go on.
Maybe I have to reiterate my question, and maybe I'm in that process, right?
Yeah.
So, hiring committee, members of hiring committee, they see a bunch of application letters. Aren't those letters that have, I have funding, I have secured this and this funding before, will immediately stand out, and they cannot select 30, 40 letters, they have to select maybe 12, 15. So if for a position you have 5 or 6, 7 letters, I may not iterate it really clear, but what I'm saying is the letter that says I have money, or I had AHA and NIH funding before, and I have NIH now, postdoctoral 1, so nobody will care how is it written, Nobody will care about anything else.
So
I may be over-exaggerating this, but will they? You have money.
There are other important things besides money.
That's okay.
But money is important.
No doubt.
Right. I mean, so if you have $1 million but you only publish 1 paper, that's going to be, they're going to look at that. If you publish, 300 papers and you don't have funding, they're going to look at that. So they're going to evaluate everything, right? They're going to look at your money. They're going to look at your publication record. They're going to look at your letters of recommendation. They're going to look at, where you were trained. All these other. They're going to look at the whole picture. Money is an important part of that picture, but it's not the only part. So if you don't happen to have funding, you shouldn't throw your hands up in despair.
But equally,
go ahead and apply.
But equally, just because you have funding, I mean, it's difficult in this. There is no right answer. You don't know what the hiring committee is looking for, but it doesn't mean that just because you have funding that you're going to be hired. And also, it depends where it's coming from, in the sense of, if this person's in a lab that frequently gets money, is it them that's actually getting the money, or is it because this head of this lab often gets money and therefore? So it doesn't necessarily tell you anything in that position. I think if you don't have funding, I wouldn't be put off by it, particularly in this current phase. It's very difficult, everybody understands that, everybody appreciates that. It's great if you've got it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to sell the job, or give you the job, or anyone else from that point of view. So make sure you sell positive points. So if you do a lot of teaching, for example, you're on certain courses, then make sure that you say that. So again, it's about selling what you have, what you can bring to the table. So you're finishing, so this paragraph, nearly finishing, so you're saying why Harvard University is a great environment, etc., etc. So you're saying to them why you want to go and why it's important. Don't spend a massive amount of time, but just put a key sentence as to why you want to be there, why you want the job. And again, they're finishing, thank you for your time and consideration. I probably would also extend that by saying something like, please do not hesitate to contact me, or should you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. And again, just going up to them and put exactly what they bring to the table, which in some respects they could have put in the second paragraph. Again, yours sincerely. So it's a good letter, a good sort of structure, but again, it depends on the job advertisement. So if you have a job advertisement or something you want to apply for, I mean, I'm sure that Jason and I will be happy to look through it and give you advice on it for sure. So some top 10 tips. Take them if you like, but from our experience, get the look right. So in other words, tailor make it. So again, answer the actual advertisement. Get to the point straight away. Don't waffle. If you have to read through lots of letters, I don't want waffling. Link the letter to the reader's needs. That goes back to the thing of it's why they want to employ you, not what why you want to go there in a sense. You know, you want to fulfill what they're looking for. Research, research, research. That means research the department, the university, what they offer, the courses that they offer, the people within the department, the papers where they publish, funding rates, every bit of information you can find that helps write that cover letter, that tailor-makes that cover letter, the CV, and your research statements if it's required. So be specific. And all this, it's a long-winded process, but it's an important process, because certainly if you're offered an interview, these are questions that you can bring in. So you're showing, actually, I really want to work here, and the reason why I want to. When you've done your research, like writing a grant application or writing a research paper or whatever, that you show that you can do that and you're being professional about it. So it's important. Get personal in the sense of sell yourself, the reason why you're better than the next candidate. Keep it positive, don't be negative, don't highlight, well, you know, I'm great with all this, but actually I'm not particularly good at that, or my funding rate is low, or my teaching, I haven't done much of that, or we don't want to hear that. So give me the positives. You know, give me a solution, don't give me negatives. There's enough negative. Never lie, as we were saying before, never. Spell check and reread, and when you've read it, reread it again, and get somebody else to read it. And spell check it for you. And that's it. Questions? All super clear?
How to get the chance of teaching? Have a chance of teaching.
How do you get experience?
Yeah.
That depends on the institution.
Yeah.
I don't know about. Are there opportunities to teach here?
So yeah. So what the question was, if there are any opportunities, or how can you find a teaching position? What the question is? If it's about finding a teaching position?
How do you get experience
How do you get
teaching?
experience?
Experience, in microbiology, there is no way to get teaching experience in microbiology.
Well, one thing you shouldn't forget is that if you're a postdoc and you're guiding graduate students in the lab, that is teaching.
That is mentoring, but the thing is, you have to show a success. You know, and nobody, if you have a smart student in the lab, if you have a bio-start student in the lab, if you have people like that, and you are actual boss, you know, your boss doesn't do it on a regular basis. That's what I do. That would count, especially if they go to conference and present a poster.
That would count. But if your experience consists of guiding graduate students that have rotated through the lab or have worked with you in the lab, if that's what you've got, then that's what you show.
That is.
And I think also, you know, that is an important aspect of teaching in many departments. That people, you know, it's one thing to get up and give a lecture, but it's another thing to have experience teaching people how to use their hand on a bench. And most of the time, at least in academic faculty positions, they're going to need to have people that can do both. So don't forget about that as a teaching experience.
And also things like this, you know, doing workshops and stuff like that, it's still about, it's still an aspect of teaching. It's not giving a formal lecture in that sense, but it's still part of it. You're still doing development. I mean, so it's still very important to put it down. Because you're showing that you are committed and want to. There's multiple aspects to teaching. It's not just standing up in a lecture hall in that sense.
Well, even things like journal clubs, seminars.
That's what. Yes.
All these stuff are kinds of teaching.
Yes.
So if you develop skills in those kind of settings, even if you're not, you know, giving exams and grading people, you're still communicating information to people and helping them learn. And those are skills that you can brag about.
That's correct.
And that's fine.
Also, you can ask your mentor, like in our development pathology, my mentor, Dr. Kel, is to put us to teach the physician assistant program student. So I took 2 classes last year.
That's right. That's right. So I don't know how Dennis or Martin Markovich would feel about that, but you can ask Jeremy, right? Yeah. You can ask Jeremy if he's willing to give you a lecture a year. And it's going to be medical. It can be medical, grad school, PA, you know, light health. That help. And don't volunteer. Go to high school. That would count. And tell them, I want to give you like 4 lectures in human herpes viruses for free. Find me 10 people who will be willing to listen to me. They will be happy about that, by the way.
Or even going into schools to talk about science, why you do what you do.
Exactly.
So outreach, in other words, is very important. You know, it ticks the box for the university as well. So I think there's always this thing that depending on your PI and the head of department, I assume that they quite often, I might be speaking out to them, but usually they have to sign off on things to say, yes, you can go and do the teaching or whatever. And there's always this thing of, well, how long is it going to take to prepare a lecture, and how long are they going to be away from the lab, and you know, they need to do these experiments, etc. And that's dependent on the PI, but it is a very important part of your of the learning curve of being a postdoc. It's not just the research, because if you want to have a faculty position, and even if you want to do talks and presentations, it's all part of building that, the confidence and you know the communication. It's very important. I think you need to perhaps talk to the PI and explain, look, I'd like to teach in this course, it's going to take this amount of time, I'm happy to do. And if time is an issue, again it's dependent on the PI, then you can give an alternative. You know, I'm happy, I'll work an extra hour here and there to cover up that hour for teaching. But teaching is part of what you should be doing, really, in the whole scheme of things. And it also makes you, strange enough, it does make you better in the lab, because you're being able to explain things in different languages, in the sense of not a foreign language, but maybe an easier version of certain things. So it is important, for sure.
Don't discount community colleges if you can do it.
Yeah. Outreach, yeah.
Adjunct positions. I don't know. LSU, I don't know if they have money now since they cut like 60% funding. But maybe they will be willing to give an adjunct position, to give a lab, which counts. So
you know, you want to get as much experience as you can, but also you need to say, oh well, you know, I never taught a course, so I'm never going to get a job. That's not the way it works. You have what you have, and the point is to get as much as you can, experience-wise. But then once you have it, then you use your experience the best you can to make yourself attractive.
But again, what you know, for a year I tried to find a job at a teaching institution, and we talk about 100 people per seat at the competition. So if you don't have teaching experience, chances are bad. Pretty much the same if you want to go to the research and you have never published, or you have one paper, not a good chance. So
that I think gets back to the idea that really the center of the application is your CV. That's where you accumulate, you gather together all of your experience, right? And so you want to make your experience as broad as possible and as good as possible to get the kind of job that you want to get. And so it's not so much you want to teach so that you can put a sentence in your cover letter. It's not about that. You want to teach so that you can have experience teaching. And so think about what are the experiences you have that have taught you how to teach. And then gather that together and say, explain, this is how I know how to teach. This is what I've done to demonstrate that. This is what I've done to get that experience.
Well, CV is obviously important, but I agree with the point that it's the first impression. Because if your cover letter bad, nobody's going to read your CV, right? You know, I don't know how.
Again, it depends whether if it's a contact, it depends what it says in the advertisement. Whether they say, send me a CV and a research statement. Always write a cover letter as well. It's important in that sense. If it's if they don't ask for CVs and they just want an informal letter, then again write the same thing. But it is important to make a good first impression. And it's true that the CV is the key thing, but the cover letter is very important. And as we said before, make sure it does stand alone, because quite often they get detached.
I have quite a technical question about cover letters. You can make a cover letter by using different fonts, obviously. Times, capital 10, or Arial, capital 12, will give you a different size of it. Is it important to have a letter dense and small, like this, or having it with, I'd say, more readable. I had to change the font here. It was very tight in the original one. I got a PDF from it.
I think that you should always write what you would want to read.
So that
Sort of the golden rule, right?
Oh, yeah, well.
You know, so if you've got 6-point font and it's a 6-page, that nobody's gonna read it.
That's
So
right.
whether or not you should do it that way or not, what is it most likely that they're gonna read, right?
Yeah, and always think that, if yours is the 100th letter that day that person's had to read, and it turns out, and I don't mean, they got the job anyway, didn't they? So isn't this one of yours? They got the
Yes.
job anyway, didn't they? But that sort of thing where it's all squidged together, and this is your 100th letter, that doesn't make me go, oh, great. So this person, But in the same way, I'm not a massive fan of that either, really. So I think you just want to, when you print it out, you want the layout to look good. So choose traditional fonts, so nothing jazzy.
Comic Sans.
Yeah. So it's something that's nice, that's readable, and that the letter's structured well, and there's spaces. It's not that you're trying to squeeze all the information possible into 1.5 pages, so therefore you make it small and all that sort of thing. So less is more in that sense. So just think what you want to read after your 99th letter, and you're reading your 100th one. What style would you like? What would be easy to read? And make sure when it's set out that the points, this isn't a good example, but each paragraph is separated, etc. But make sure that your certain sentences jump out of you. So if they're scanning, and never assume that a person reads things completely. If they're scanning a letter and they're going, okay, they've seen a job in such and such, they want a job in that department, I've advertised 10 jobs, so which one are they doing? Okay, they've got 5 years doing this, and they're doing that, and they're going down. Make sure you've got sentences that are jumping out. How?
Well, along those lines, people read as an F, right? They read the top line and they skip the rest of it. Pay attention when you're reading like a long block of text on like a website or something. You read the top part of the paragraph and then you skip a little bit. Then you move to the next paragraph and read the top part of the paragraph and you skip a little bit. So the most important thing is you put first in the paragraph, because that's what's most likely to draw the eye. And then the less important things, if there is a less important thing, that's cover letter, then that should go later on.
Right.
And I'm not sure that it's very professional to use boldface or italics.
No, I don't mean that. No, it's a highlight thing.
But positioning,
but just as they read down.
Actually, it's getting back to the point, right? What's your point? What's the point of this paragraph? Say it first, and then it's more likely that that's that.
Because that's the thing they'll read, and that's the thing that they'll go, okay, well actually I'll read a little bit more because I'm interested in it. Whereas if you're just giving a little waffle listen.
So you don't highlight. You don't put.
No, I don't do it in bold or underline or anything like that. No. It should stand out from the letter in the way in which you've structured it. And never underestimate a well-structured letter.
Okay. I have to write mine.
Well, look help. At least we'll spell it. Nothing else.
Again, do no harm. That's, Hippocratic oath kind of thing, right? A good letter is probably not going to get you the job by itself, but it can really make you look like an idiot. So just be careful, be professional, have someone else read it. Preferably someone more experienced than you are, and follow this advice.
And I would say, following from that, if there are certain words or certain things that are used in the advertisement, then I would put those in. So again, it's going back to this thing of tailor-making your letter. So if you send a letter that is basically just looks like something you could have sent 10 different universities, people aren't going to be impressed with that at all. Whereas if you put things that I'm interested in such, or you mention certain techniques or whatever, and you link those in, you're bringing out saying, okay, I fit the description, this is why. So you want, again, to do as many of those sorts of things as possible, really. Okay.
Thank you.